Hello everyone, I'm the Weather Dude, welcome back, and today we're going to be discussing Invest 92L and the potentially dangerous impacts it's going to have on the southeastern United States. So of course, be sure to stay tuned for this video, and of course, hit that like and subscribe button, and we're going to get right into it here. So here we have where Invest 92L is right now, and as you can see, it is currently sitting right here in the southwestern Gulf of Mexico, and it's going to be tracking off to the north and east just like this. And as we know, it has a 90% chance of developing in the next 7 or so days. But of course, I mean, it's already developing right now. It's already pretty much a tropical depression, probably as I'm making this video right now. And it's heading right for the state of Florida. So just some facts about it real quick. It's got some winds of 30 knots, aka about 35 miles per hour. Minimum central pressure about 1,007 millibars. All right, so that's just some current stats for you. Here it is on satellite, and as you can see, you really see these thunderstorms. Actually, you can see, yep, right there is where we really see those cold cloud tops. That's really where the thunderstorms are booming right now. It's sitting over some pretty warm water, and I'm going to head to that now. As you can see there on the top left of your screen, 86 degrees is the water temperature, so in this general area at least. So it's looking pretty warm right now, for sure. And again, more than what's needed to develop, right, a tropical system. As you know, it can take upper 70s, low 80s for it to really get a storm going. So pretty much it is sitting right about in this zone. So it's going to have about all this area in here to really develop and get its act together. So here is the current wind shear and satellite. All right, so you can see, again, majority of the wind shear pretty much coming in over here, right? So pretty much coming off the southeast, we kind of like a jet stream coming down, right? Like a little frontal system, right? So that's keeping, a lot of shear off in the southeast, right? However, from where the storm itself is, right here, really nothing to worry about at the moment. All right, so you can see pretty much no wind shear, which means, now remember, wind shear is bad for tropical cyclones, right? Because it kind of like blows and it kind of just gets them disorganized, blows the cloud tops all over the place. And there's really not much of that in here. All right, so that means the storm is really going to get to grow over the next, say, few days or so. All right, so here we have Invest 92L. You can see the model track guidance, and you can see here it is, again, right here, southwestern Gulf of Mexico. This is just a collection of models. We're going to get into some more ensemble models as well. All right, and you can see right here, it's probably going to head off to the east and then kind of bend off to the north, pretty much heading right over the central part of Florida there. All right, so looking pretty dangerous here for our Florida friends, and then heading off to the east from there. So again, and if you look at the timings, about 96, 120, so about 4 to 5 days or so, or at least these group of models are projecting it's going to hit the state of Florida. Now that's just a track, of course, right? How strong could it be? Well, we get sort of an idea with that here. So here's the pressure. Remember, lower pressure means higher winds, right? Typically speaking. So here you are. Here's a storm, right? And you can see, not going to be moving that fast. Matter of fact, from the, we call them spaghetti models, from the spaghetti model projections, over the next, say, 72 hours or so, it's only going to be right here. So it's not going to move very much, although it will strengthen, projecting an average of 983 millibars. But you can see a lot of, greens, yellows, like a little bit of reds, right? It's like anything basically in this region here, right? But then we see the pressures really drop. We see a lot of reds, some darker reds, maybe more in this region, right? So maybe 960 to 980 millibars of pressure once it comes into the state of Florida, right? Pretty much going right over Orlando is what the models are saying right now, or at least the GEFS ensemble tracks, and then going off the coast from there. So here's the GEPS model tracks. Not as many of these spaghetti models out at the moment. You can see here it is, southwestern Gulf of Mexico, and you can see heading off to the east and then bending to the north. And again, but some do have some nice higher pressure, right? Maybe around, 970 to 980 to 990. Either way, this could be a pretty significant storm in terms of strength. And here's what I mean. Actually, I'm going to get into the wind steering real quick first, then we'll get into that. So here's the wind steering just to kind of show you, since I just showed you the tracks. You can see pretty much what we have going on right here is an upper level high pressure system right about there. So it's going to kind of rotate like this, right? Because winds rotate clockwise around the high pressure, as we know, which is going to cause any storm to kind of move in this direction, right? From west to east in the Gulf of Mexico. So you can also see by the arrows on your screen, it kind of depicts that there as well. So here is the intensity guidance. And as you can see, right, pretty much a invest system right now. But as you can see, it's going to strengthen, and some models even have it rapidly strengthening, of course. Varies, but anywhere between a Cat 1 and a Cat 4. So this could be potentially a major hurricane. All right, by the time it comes into the state of Florida. As we know, Gulf of Mexico is king for producing these, monstrous systems, or these monstrous hurricanes. So it certainly could happen. Majority of the models, I would say, keep it in the Cat 1 to Cat 2 range. So like anything like right in here. And that's probably to be expected. Although, again, there are quite a few that get it in the Category 3 and even 4 status. And again, this is just a preliminary look right now. Of course, it's still got a couple days. It's still got a few days to strengthen. Of course, we know the forecast itself can also change. Right, and then we see once it makes that Florida landfall, it will probably, taper off in strength. All right, so as we head to the tail end of the video here, we're going to take a look at some of the model guidance. As you can see, they're GIFs, so they're kind of just already playing for me. But you can see here's a GFS, and you can see here's a storm, right, dropping in pressure as it heads to the North Florida. So pretty much doing a track just like that. Like, it's nice. I can like draw over so I can show you guys where the track is going. So yeah, they pretty much bring it over like into Tampa and then kind of going over North Florida. So maybe heading towards like Jacksonville. But pretty much, the whole state would pretty much get clobbered. Just like, we saw that with Helene too. Not sure if this is going to be as big of a system, but you can see it's certainly growing big enough, especially as it gets closer to that landfall. And of course, we see the heavy rain and strong winds in that core. So probably the worst of the weather, at least according to the preliminary run here this morning of the GFS model. The worst of the weather seems to be where the track is, maybe just a little bit to the north. Although, again, pretty much the whole state gets rain and wind bands. So that doesn't mean Central or South Florida is necessarily out of it, if you will. Let's go over to the Canadian, the GEM model. So they bring it to the south, right? And then kind of bring it up like that. And then over here, right? So they kind of bring it over, kind of like over southern Florida, because they have it dropping to the south initially. Instead of heading due east, they kind of have it dropping south and coming back up, which is interesting. So places like Miami and, Naples, West Palm Beach really get the brunt of it with this depiction. They don't have it quite as strong as the GFS has it, which I find interesting. Because I thought, like, if it's dropping south, it looks like it may be spending more time over water, right? Like it's, taking a detour to get to its destination, if you will. But again, a lot of heavy rain. The worst of it would probably, at least on this model run, if this model would probably be over south central Florida, right? Particularly anything from like Orlando on south or Kissimmee on south would kind of get the worst of it from this model's perspective. From the European model, however, so here it is, again, moving pretty slow at first, right? Still not moving all that fast, but then it kind of comes in and then out to sea like so. So I would say that the European pretty much, I'm not saying that, this might just be a coincidence, but it pretty much is the middle of the ground of like the GFS and the Canadian. Because the GFS pretty much had a track like this to the north, and then the Canadian had a track like this to the south. So the European is right in the middle there with this middle track. And we can see that, again, going right over Orlando, Melbourne, and then eventually going out to sea. Now, in terms of strength, it is worth noting that, again, about 980 millibars of pressure or so. And there's no, there's no one right calculation for getting pressure into winds and knots or miles per hour, right? But in general, right, when the pressure is this low, it will probably get to hurricane strength. And I think there's in my opinion, a greater than 2/3 chance that this thing becomes a hurricane for sure. Low wind shear, warm ocean temperatures, definitely, pretty much the right ingredients here to get a pretty significant system forming out of this. So definitely something to watch with Invest 92L here.